Howdy, I'm Porter S. Garner III, class of 1979. Here at the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center, thousands have an opportunity to walk through a history of excellence and selfless service at Texas A&M. Artifacts from every generation showcase our core values. But the impact of Texas A&M is felt far beyond these walls. For example, on the island of Corregidor, 8,000 miles from here, you'll find a permanent monument to the courage and heroism of a group of former students, a symbol for all the world to see the loyalty and selfless service of Aggies. The film you are about to watch will tell the story of Aggie Muster on Corregidor and much more. You'll learn the history of Texas A&M's most hallowed tradition and why Muster is so important to our worldwide Aggie network. We at the Association of Former Students are proud to present Aggie Muster. Enjoy the show.
The day is April 21st. The Texas A&M University Corps of Cadets marches to the Academic Plaza. In the heart of campus, they solemnly raise the flag of the United States. On hand to observe is an older generation of Texas Aggies. Former students celebrating their 50th reunion look on and remember. This is the start of Aggie Muster on the campus. It's Texas A&M's most hallowed tradition, observed by thousands of students and former students around the world. But the Muster story does not start here. For that, you need to travel back to the beginning of Texas. In 1835, Mexico's president, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, set aside the nation's Constitution of 1824 and ushered in a dictatorship. Several Mexican states revolted, including the area known as Tejas. In a short time, the other rebellions were put down, and Santa Anna himself led troops into the northern reaches of his empire to quell dissent. With shocking brutality, Santa Anna and his forces engaged the Texas rebels and silenced them. In February of 1836, a small contingent of the Texas revolutionaries was trapped inside the Alamo Mission near San Antonio. Santa Anna himself led the 13-day siege of the surrounded Texans. The general offered no mercy, no quarter, and slaughtered the 200-plus defenders inside. Texans recognized they were in a fight for their very lives. On March 2nd, Texas officially declared independence from Mexico. Following the leadership of General Sam Houston, 900 men had retreated onto ground between the San Jacinto River and Buffalo Bayou. Houston was trapped. Santa Anna's forces moved into position, but were in no hurry to attack. 1,200 trained soldiers of the Mexican Army were able to relax a bit. On the afternoon of April 21st, 1836, they enjoyed a leisurely, sunny afternoon siesta. They were less than a mile from the Texas camp, but not worried. After all, Houston was outnumbered, and he had no place to go. But General Houston had no intention of going anywhere. He had ordered his men to burn the strategic Vince's Bridge, cutting off Santa Anna's only escape route and his own. The Texas Army would fight, and they would have to win or die trying. At 3 p.m., Houston formed his troops into a line, 1 man deep and 1,000 yards long. He mounted his horse, drew his sword, and marched his men into history. Through the tall grass surrounding the Mexican camp, Houston's men covered the 3/4 of a mile and attacked an unsuspecting Santa Anna and his entire army. The battle lasted only 18 minutes. Unable to organize an effective counterattack, the Mexican soldiers and their leader ran. The Texas Army poured out hot vengeance with a fury, crying, "Remember the Alamo!" More than 600 Mexican soldiers were killed in the fighting, and just 2 Texans. Santa Anna was captured a short time later and surrendered to a wounded Sam Houston. An armistice was declared, and all Mexican forces were to leave Texas. At San Jacinto, April 21st, 1836, Texas won her freedom.
We're taught that history about this state, how we were formed, the individuals that were willing to sacrifice their tomorrow. They were willing to die on the altar of freedom rather than live in slavery.
Muster is based on a date, April 21st. San Jacinto Day in the state of Texas was a state holiday. Schools closed, banks closed, and it was observed at Texas A&M. Slowly over the years, clubs, small groups, groups of Aggies began to gather on that day.
It had been celebrated, but nobody picked it up and celebrated like the Aggies. We were Texas A&M, therefore, that's what we did.
The Agricultural and Mechanical College of Texas opened in October of 1876, just 40 years after the victory at San Jacinto. While the earliest students observed San Jacinto Day informally, a 1903 proposal was made by then-President David Houston to cancel the day's planned activities. This idea prompted a student strike, and the school's president gave in. Early on, A&M students were fiercely loyal to one another and the school. Life on the campus was difficult, and the college was isolated.
The people that will stick it out will use this to actually develop a strong feeling for the school. Because of that feeling of isolation, the attitude that we stuck it out together, it's us against the world, makes for close comradeship. That we're out here by ourselves, it's up to us.
In 1879, just as soon as the first students finished their time on campus, they formed the Alumni Organization, determined to keep the bonds of friendship strong among Aggies. Former students would regularly muster, a military term referring to a gathering of troops, and that's just what the Aggies did. An 1883 Ex-Cadets Association program explained the purpose: to meet and live over again our college days. Let every alumnus answer a roll call. In 1917, a gathering of former students on the campus was planned. It was later canceled because of the events of World War I. The campus was converted to a military training facility, and many students left for active duty. By the 1920s, the school had grown, and so had the number of former students. A 1924 Texas Aggie article declared that in every town with as many as 2 Aggies, let us have a meeting. With the encouragement of the school's president, William Bazell, the many A&M clubs began meeting on the most logical date, April 21st, San Jacinto Day.
I got here September the 16th, 1940. I got here, my dad dropped me off. We went inside, my dad said, unpack, and I'm taking your suitcases back to Houston. You're not going to need them. So there I was, stranded at Texas A&M.
In 1937, the world again found itself on the brink of war. President Franklin Roosevelt visited the campus of Texas A&M and asked, "What do you need to be ready?" The result was a $2 million expansion that doubled the size of the campus. By 1941, the war in Europe and China raged, but the United States had remained out of it. On November 26, 1941, the student body gathered for the annual bonfire. That year, the Aggies were the Southwest Conference champions for the 3rd year in a row. The football team dedicated the rivalry game against TU to Aggies serving in the military overseas.
We were speaking a few moments ago of that 12th man on the sidelines, the fellow who can't be in the game, but whose heart and soul is really here. Well, there's a man like that 10,000 miles away from here, an Aggie who'd like to be here tonight. He's waiting out in Manila to talk to us, a fellow who's known, he once was known as Fish Moore when he came to A&M, like any other freshman. Today, he's Brigadier General George F. Moore, commanding our coastal defense in the vital outpost of the Philippines. And now, General Moore speaking from Manila in the Philippines.
Hello, Texas Aggies. This is General Moore speaking to you from Manila. To all of you, Texas A&M men on duty in this far eastern outpost of democracy, send greetings and best wishes. We deeply appreciate the honor you have shown us by dedicating tomorrow's game to Texas A&M men in the armed services. I am sure I express the sentiments of each of them when I say to you, we wish we were with you tonight. Wherever there are United States troops assembled today, in any considerable force, you will find A&M men carrying on in a manner which reflects credit on Texas A&M College.
11 days later, Japanese planes bombed Pearl Harbor. Just hours after that, the Japanese would bomb the airfield at Manila. For his actions during that bombing, the first Silver Star of the war would be awarded to an Aggie, Tom Dooley, class of 1935.
War broke out. After that was a different ball game. A lot of guys just flat quit school and went and volunteered right then. A lot of them did.
And they speeded up our classes. We went to school all year round, except they didn't let us finish. They took us out and sent us to OCS.
More than 20,000 Aggies served in World War II. A&M contributed more officers than even the military academies themselves.
It was what the school was designed to do, and no time since then have we been called upon to provide so many.
By the spring of 1942, news from the front was not good. The decision was made to focus on the Nazi threat in Europe, and that meant limited supplies to the Pacific. Following the horrific events at Pearl Harbor, the war in the Pacific was marked by retreat. Japanese forces attacked the Philippines, forcing General MacArthur and his U.S. soldiers onto the Bataan Peninsula and a small island in the mouth of Manila Bay. By mid-March, MacArthur had been ordered to evacuate his command post in the Malinta Tunnel system on Corregidor Island. The remaining U.S. and Philippine forces could not hold back the tide of the enemy onslaught. On April 9th, Bataan fell. The full might of the Japanese forces was then brought to bear on the lone outpost known as the Rock.
Rations were running out. The Japanese had bombed the water supply. The hospital had been bombed. You know, you're on a rock island. You are really got a problem. And they had something like 2,500 people on Corregidor by now. Too many people, not enough food, and no water. Not good. Tom Dooley is a big part of the story. He's class of 1935. So General Moore calls him in and says, Dooley, you know, April 21st is going to be here in 2 days. I want a roster of all the men on Corregidor that are here, the Aggies. The list was put together, and they hide it in a news release that on April 21st, like the sons of San Jacinto, the Aggies have mustered on Corregidor. They have met in defiance of the Japanese Imperial Army. All of a sudden, this telegram hits the news wires. It goes nationwide, front page of newspapers.
25 names were on the list, though there were a few other Aggies on the island. Despite the reports, it's unlikely that more than a few Aggies were able to physically gather. The muster was simply on paper, but General Moore and Tom Dooley had done it. They had sent word back home, a message of hope that they were alive, that they were still in the fight, and they still carried the Aggie spirit. 2 weeks after the Aggies sent their message, the island of Corregidor fell. Without reinforcements or resupply, U.S. forces had extended themselves beyond the limit of human endurance. On May 6, 1942, the island's defenders surrendered. Those who were not killed in the fighting were taken to Japan's brutal prisoner of war camps. Only 12 of the 25 Aggies survived.
The head of the association at that time was a guy named E.E. McQuillan, and McQuillan says, we will begin planning now to recognize the heroics of this group, but also of Aggies worldwide serving. For 1943, we will have musters.
The Association of Former Students prepared packets to be sent out to A&M clubs around the world. These muster packets outlined a new direction for the annual San Jacinto Day celebrations. The April 21st ceremonies would be a moment to reflect on our Aggie heritage, the importance of our time together, and remember those we've lost.
I credit Mr. McQuillan with having the vision and having the dedication to muster, to understand how important it could be for Aggies and ultimately for Texas A&M.
The response from Aggies around the world was an overwhelming here. In 1943, hundreds of the first Aggie musters took place. Aggies deployed to all four corners of the globe, as well as those at home, immediately adopted the tradition. In 1943, they mustered at Guadalcanal. From Alaska to Anzio in 1944, and across Germany and in Paris in 1945. The first on-campus student muster took place in 1944. E.E. McQuillan was the guest speaker. In September of 1945, when the Japanese surrendered on the deck of the USS Missouri in Tokyo Harbor, Tom Dooley was there to watch. In 1946, at the campus of Texas A&M, General Dwight D. Eisenhower spoke to 50,000 at Kyle Field with a message of victory. Freedom had defeated tyranny. But it was an event 8,000 miles away that would captivate Aggies everywhere. The Texas Aggies were going back to the Rock.
The word went out in the Philippines that we're going to have a gathering on Corregidor to remember the 42.
128 Aggies returned to Corregidor on April 21, 1946. At the mouth of the bombed and battered Malinta Tunnel, they mustered under a homemade Texas A&M flag. The well-organized event included the Spirit of Aggie Land and the Heroes Roll Call. An iconic photo was taken, an image that would forevermore be connected with Aggie Muster.
It was very sober, very, thoughtful of what those people ahead of us went through.
That was a very emotional muster. We were reclaiming that island for our fallen Aggie friends. Yeah, it was tough.
I get butterflies to think that many guys had that feeling that you had to be there, no matter what, even if you had to swim.
If there was any question, muster was going to be sealed as an ongoing annual tradition. The 46th April 21st muster will seal that into place.
Muster was always the greatest and best of our traditions because of what it symbolizes, and it gives us the opportunity to celebrate the past and those who have been a part of us, the contributions that those very, very important Aggie lives made.
Going to the Aggie muster the first time my freshman year, it occurred to me there that someday my name's going to be in that roll call too. And it just struck me that the love for the school goes so deep, the ties to the school are so binding, that even unto death we're still remembered as part of this school.
It's an opportunity once a year for Aggies to gather together to relive stories of their college days. It's barbecue, it's cobbler, it's a huge celebration. It's a celebration of our Agginess, what makes us unique.
Remarkably, Aggie muster is no one thing. Muster ceremonies are widely varied in their setting, tone, and style, but they always include a healthy dose of the Aggie spirit.
A poker game broke out at the very first muster I went to, which is fine. And I think that's one of the great aspects of muster, is it doesn't have to be a formal gathering. It can simply be two Aggies getting together and reflecting on their days at A&M, and no matter what has happened throughout the year. I think muster puts all that aside, and it compels former students, Aggies, to reflect on what being an Aggie is really all about.
The muster planning process is challenging. The on-campus muster, attended by thousands each year, is planned and run by a dedicated team of students.
I have served on Aggie Muster Committee all 4 years as a student. I can't believe that as an 18-year-old, I was given the opportunity to be immersed in such a special part of Texas A&M.
Throughout the year, this small group leads more than 150 student volunteers as they design, coordinate, promote, and host A&M's most cherished tradition. In addition to helping the students with the on-campus muster, the Association of Former Students supports A&M clubs coast to coast and beyond. Clubs, as well as individuals who want to host a muster, can find plenty of help at the association.
You got to have that spirit and that passion to serve the Aggie network. We give them the tools and resources they need to do that. It makes it very important for us to make sure we have the capability to give the hometown clubs the services they need to put on those ceremonies.
Muster is a year-round project for the association. A dedicated team helps coordinate more than 300 musters around the globe. Aggies of all nationalities are tied to the values, traditions, and spirit of Texas A&M.
A&M is a very important place, not just in College Station, around the world. People who see our traditions, they see our muster overseas, they see the values in action, they see the ring. There's a big impact.
I was asked to be the muster speaker in Guatemala. When we went through the whole muster, to see Guatemalan Aggies, to see the tears come out of their eyes. They're not Texans, they're not from the United States, but they feel the same thing that all Aggies feel. They are Aggies at the end of the day, and they walk out of here Aggies.
So when you commemorate it, overseas especially, I believe it makes you feel closer to home and makes you prouder in many ways to be a Texas Aggie and know that wherever you are overseas, that there's some people this very day back in College Station that are doing the same things that you did as a student and experiencing some of the emotions that you're feeling no matter where you are.
Whether on campus, around the nation, or around the world, a roll call for the absent is the most cherished of the muster traditions. Aggies who've passed away in the previous year are called for during muster. Friends, family members, and classmates answer a solemn here. Often, a candle is lit for each one, and the bright light of the Aggie spirit lifts our hearts.
The Aggie spirit is a promise, and it says, from the second that you decide to come to this university, you will be remembered and you are of value to this university specifically.
Every name is called somewhere, and some names are called in multiple places. And on April 21st, the Association of Former Students calls all names at the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center on campus.
Every Aggie's name on the roll call will be called. And for those that have lost Aggies, who may not even be able to attend a muster, may not even know what a muster is, I think we can tell them your loved one's name was called and somebody answered here.
Current students whose lives are tragically cut short are honored every month on campus with silver taps, a tradition that's one of A&M's oldest and most revered. On April 21st, the families of these students attend the campus muster. In a private ceremony known as Ring Remembrance, they're given an Aggie ring crest signifying that student's eternal place in the Aggie family. In the Memorial Student Center, families of those who will be called during the campus muster are given the opportunity to display items that carry special meaning about their loved ones. Thousands walk by, read stories, and learn more about generation after generation of Aggies.
I think what's beautiful about muster, if people take the time to really look into it and engage, is that it symbolizes hope and an opportunity for families to really celebrate their Aggies and talk about them and reignite this fire for A&M and realize why it is so special.
Muster to me is the culmination of a lot of the Aggie spirit, mainly because I think it distills so much of our spirit into a single ceremony that epitomizes the very best of being an Aggie.
There's something different about A&M, about Aggies, about this event. You just feel good to be a part of it.
The Aggie spirit to me is that camaraderie, that friendship.
Helping your friend out, give them a hand up, picking them up when they fall down, and knowing that they'll do the same thing for you. It's understanding the uniqueness of this place, the lives that have been changed by this place, the state and the nation and the world that's been changed by this place, and understanding it and respecting it.
It's not just a place. It's really an emotional attachment that Aggies have for the school. We love the school.
So I think the Aggie spirit to me is something that you feel, something that you feel in your heart, in your mind, that you take great pride in. And I think it's also something that you try and share with others.
The Aggie spirit is the love you have for this institution and what it stands for. It's a love for Texas A&M that includes a love for Aggies, because we all have shared experiences that have helped shape our lives.
It's something that gets into a person's spirit, into their soul, that makes them rise above. I don't know what to call it, I just know that there's something different about an Aggie, and it's the Aggie spirit.
Aggie Muster is the most tangible representation of the Aggie spirit. On April 21st, when you are gathering with Aggies to not only celebrate but honor people, it encompasses all of those core values, and it makes you feel something bigger and something more important.
When somebody asks me what's your favorite tradition at Texas A&M, without a doubt it's Aggie Muster.
In many lands and climes this April day, proud sons of Texas A&M unite. Our loyalty to country, school we pay, and seal our pact with bond of common might. We live again those happy days of yore, on campus, field, in classroom, dorm, at drill. Fond memory brings a sigh, but nothing more. Now we're men, and life's a greater thrill. Before we part and go upon our way, we pause to honor those we knew so well. The old familiar faces we miss so much today, left cherished recollections that time cannot dispel. Softly call the muster. Let comrade answer, here. Their spirits hover round us as if to bring us cheer. Mark them present in our hearts. We'll meet some other day. There is no death, but life eternal for old friends such as they.